Hi guys, this is Anna and welcome to my book review of this lovely book I finished early this month. This is Umberto's Eco, The Name of the Rose. The book originally written in Italian, translated into English in the late 1980s, and it has become an instant bestseller back in the day when it was first published, which actually surprised me because this is not the easiest of the books to get into. It took me a while. I have first tried to read it translated into Russian, so I've kind of now read it in two languages, but I had to give up the Russian, switched to the English translation because I find it easier to get into. The book has quite an interesting language, and also it requires quite a lot from you as a reader, and it's done deliberately. Umberto Eco himself has said in his multiple interviews afterwards that he wanted to build a very atmospheric world, which he succeeded in, and he wanted to see who will stay with him for about the first 150 pages of the book, who will last through this time, because only the person who would last with him through this debris of 150 pages will be worth reading the book. It's quite an interesting idea for an author who has written his first book. This was his debut novel, but he was by no means new in the literary field. He was a professor of literature and semiotics in Italy. He's one of the most known Italians in the Western world. And obviously after this book came out, he became even more prominent. He's published many books since then, which I now intend to read. But this book is quite special. It is set in the medieval time, in the 13th century. And the language used in this book is not only academic, it's also quite deliberately linked to the time period. So if you completely unprepared going to this book, you read first sort of 20, 30, 50 pages, you're like, whoa, hold on, what is going on in it? And then the genre of this book is really weird. Is it a mystery? Is it a detective story? Is it a horror book? Is it actually an academic work? Is it the book interested in theology and the history of religion, and specifically Catholic Church and Inquisition? All of those fields all of those genres are intertwined into this one book, which is dense, which is rich, extremely atmospheric, but in the same time very demanding. And also the author really blatantly above you intellectually. You can see just how educated Umberto Eco is straight from the onset. The book is littered. Honestly, there are so many quotes in Latin in this book, and in the English translation they have not been translated into English. They just left in Latin, and like you can see the translation in the end of the book. In Russian edition they have translated Latin straight as the main text, which I think is one of the reasons I struggled in the Russian language. I prefer the translation to be left, and because I wanted to know what they were and who all of the characters in the book were, I actually purchased a separate book which is called The Key to the Name of the Rose, published by academics in America as a response to the first translation into English, where they have translated separately all of the Latin quotes, all of the non-Italian quotes, because some of them are not only in Latin but they're in Arabic, and they also have like a little dictionary of all of the key figures in the church in the time. I knew a little bit about the history going into this because I was interested in the French and the English history in the early sort of part of the medieval time. And I knew very little about the church history, particularly Catholic Church, and you do need to know quite a lot going into this book. So that's one of the hurdles. The language is weird, the time period is very weird, and it reads like an escape. This book is an escape, and an example of escapism for the author. He obviously wanted to amuse himself. This is his area of expertise. He's an expert in the field, so he's written something he clearly has a really good understanding about. And I absolutely enjoyed it in the end. I didn't love the book because it took so much out of me. Yes, the author deliberately claims that he wants his reader to be a smart reader, a thoughtful reader. And that's what puzzled me, because this book has been a bestseller. People who love this book later went to read Dan Brown. How can you read Dan Brown and then read this? This is like opposite books in the field. Dan Brown basically plagiarized most of the plots from Umberto Eco's work. Is it a fulfilling read? Yes. Could I predict what happened in the end? Unfortunately, yes. I'm not going to give you any clues because I don't want to spoil the plot. And if I talk a little bit more about what happens in the book. I will spoil the plot for you. But you basically have a monastery. In the middle of the Middle Ages, you have Inquisition happening, and you have a monk and his apprentice arriving in this monastery, and they ask to solve a mystery. And they try to solve the mystery, and there's a library, because this monastery is renowned for its amazing library and for the scribes working on that. And they set on this mystery quest, try to solve it, and ultimately you find out more about the apprentice. It's written in the future by the apprentice being old, retelling the story, which I think is a very smart trick on behalf of Umberto Eco, because it allows for deviations, it allows for some of the cloud over the narration, because you have a bit of unreliable narration, which I really enjoy. And I will recommend this book. I will absolutely recommend this book. I think it's a semiotic work in literature in the late 20th century. I think it's a great way to get into Umberto Eco works. I will most definitely read more by him. But going into this book, the author is highly intelligent and he loves literature. So he makes an enormous amount of literary references in this work. He plays with names, so the way the names rhyme. For example, the main monk and his apprentice are heavily based on Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and I mean, I'm not spoiling the plot for you, but it's just he's playing with the names, the way the phonetics of the names work. So it is so blatantly obvious from the first pages, you can't escape it. He plays with other names, like one of the key players in this book is named Jorge, and he's clearly based on the favorite person for Umberto Eco, which was Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentine writer, another erudite, another super academically advanced individual. And in fact, there are just so many subtle passages to Borges throughout in The Name of the Rose that I had to go and pick it up. And I wish I've read this before I've read The Name of the Rose, because so much of The Name of the Rose became much more open and explicit to me once I've read the Borges work. This is his collection of short stories called The Librarians. You have to read it before you go and read The Name of the Rose. You have to read it on its own. It's fantastic, and it shows you the world Umberto Eco creates from a different angle, much more rich angle. And then when I finished reading this book, it wasn't enough. I wanted to know more from the author, hear more from him. So I purchased another book. It's called Postscript to The Name of the Rose, written by Umberto Eco. This is his non-fiction. This is his thoughts as a prologue to The Name of the Rose, where he talks about what he wanted from the reader, what he thinks the book is about, where he openly admits how long it took for him to write, how thoughtful he was, how he actually counted the steps when he was writing it. He tried to keep his world as plausible as possible, where he openly talks about why he would never tell what the title is about and his ideas on the title. I absolutely adored this. This to me was actually a better read than The Name of the Rose, and I love Umberto Eco's style. I think I will enjoy his non-fiction work better. Definitely would recommend it. But first of all, my first advice would be stick with the book. Don't rush through it. If you like mysteries, you would love this. If you like history, you would love this. If you love good language, you would love it. If you like to find out more about literature and the language, you would love this book. But if you try to gallop through the book, you'll be bitterly disappointed. This is not the book you should just open up and think, oh, I should understand it from the first get-go. No. Allow yourself first 100-150 pages to get acquainted with the world. This is what Umberto Eco wanted you to do as a reader, and take his own advice. He created this world, and you will be rewarded. This is a great piece of literary fiction. It's great for Italians, it's great for the world. I think everyone should read it, and I completely agree that this is justifiably a book in the list of 1001 books you should read. Hope this was useful. If you have read the book, please let me know. If you read any of Umberto Eco's critical essays on the book, which I have not mentioned, please absolutely let me know. I would like to discuss the book with you. Happy reading, guys. Bye.